This is a story about fear and about understanding, and how when we allow space for both of those things in planning processes, people are able to work across their differences and collaborate to achieve extraordinary results, not despite, but because of our differences. In 2010 and 11, I helped the Durango community in southwest Colorado develop a recreation management plan for this reservoir just outside of town, a new reservoir, a Bureau of Reclamation project. And based on our ability to bring people together in that process, the following year I was asked to help the city of Durango develop a river management plan for the Animas River that runs through town. Both of these processes are examples of collaboration, of community-scale mediation, of working across boundaries, and ultimately, robust citizen participation in making decisions that affect communities. When we are competing for finite resources, it's not our first instinct as human beings to be collaborative. Our first instinct is to be self-interested. And we do this in a large part because we're afraid. We're afraid that something's going to be done to us or that something's going to be taken from us. And so in response to that fear, we get really demanding, and we quickly separate ourselves from those who we feel are threats to the things that we care about. Recreationists versus conservationists, motorized boaters versus non-motorized boaters, anglers versus kayakers versus tubers versus law enforcement versus private property owners versus commercial outfitters, us versus them. Before I started working in Durango, they had already done a really good job of separating us and them and creating stories about what they thought the other was. In this case, they were telling the story that them equates to the party crowd, the high noise, high speed, we don't care about anything but having a good time kind of crowd. And on the other side, they were characterizing them as the elitist, me-only crowd who wanted to protect the thing that they cared about most to the exclusion of everybody else. And then I came on scene, and they all started directing their comments to me, saying that if I accepted the viewpoints of them, I would be seen as biased from the start and would be ineffectual in my ability to work with us. And then somebody said this. Thanks for that. And so I'm reading these comments, and I'm realizing people are angry, and they're vocal, and they're building steam. And at this point, something inside of me, some voice, deep and primal and instinctual, is saying, holy cow, they're gonna eat me. Because this is what happens. You know, something triggers that fear instinct. And in the case of me reading these comments from people, my hands were clammy and my chest was tight and my breathing's more shallow and there's not enough oxygen going to my brain, and I'm thinking, I should have just become a florist. Our physiology changes and our breathing changes and our ability to make good decisions is diminished. And so we created a process for people because we knew that to get to where we were going, to get to a place where people could agree on a plan, we were going to have to move beyond fear and demand to understanding and cooperation. And so we created a process that was designed to do several things, including to create space for people to be self-interested, for them to have an opportunity to think about what mattered most to them, to be able to articulate their interests and concerns and desired experiences, and then to be able to explain those things to one another. The process was also designed to create space for people to really hear and understand one another so that they could begin to work together more meaningfully. In the Zulu tradition in South Africa, when a group gathers to discuss something and a speaker comes up to speak, they say to the group, "Sewubona," it means, "I see you." And in response, the group says to the speaker, "Yebo sewubona," it means, "We are here and we see you." It's an acknowledgement of shared humanity and a shared moment in time on this planet and all of the things that are possible between people in that moment. And I explained Sewubona and Yebu Sewubona to a group of more than 100 people gathered for a river management plan in Durango. It was a group that had already met several times to talk about what mattered most to them, to hear one another, and to begin to think about ways that they could share the river. And we were in a big room, and there were tables all around the room, and people were sitting in mixed groups with different perspectives. And I said to them, before we go any farther in this process, I want to ask you to look across the table and to look across the room at the people gathered here and ask yourself, have you seen them? Do you understand what they care about? Are you willing to find solutions that take their interests into account too? Because tomorrow or next week or next month, when you see them in the grocery store, or when you pass them walking down the street, or this summer when you see each other on the river, I want you to be able to say to yourself, I saw that person, I heard them, I understood them, and I did everything that I could to make sure that they got what they needed too. There's tremendous power in understanding, and it unlocks the ability for collaboration. This image is really meaningful to me because these are people who have spent time doing the work of hearing each other and understanding one another. And here they are, finding ways to meet everybody's interests. They're finding ways to make sure that everybody got heard and everybody gets what they needed. Dasher Keltner, professor of psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, I heard him in an interview one day say that there are really sound reasons, deep instinctual reasons, why we have evolved to be good to one another. And the idea is that we're wired to care and to be concerned and to feel compassionate and to cooperate. Golden, Colorado is another community with really active, engaged residents, and one river that runs through town, one well-loved river. I've been asked to come and help them create a collaborative process for a river management plan because Golden this past summer, found themselves in a position that they had never been in before. Recent drought in Colorado created a situation where there was much less water in the river for a much longer period of time, and this past summer was really hot. And it turns out that those two conditions, low water and high heat, are perfect conditions for tubers. And they showed up on the river in numbers that Golden has never seen before, thousands more than Golden has ever seen before. And there are impacts to that kind of increase in use and visitation. There are conversations that are going to need to be had about balance and about managing diverse interests and about hearing each other and understanding one another and working together. As our issues become more complex, the divides between us as humans are deeper and more pronounced. And it's not easy to have conversations across these kinds of differences, but it's possible. I've seen it happen over water in Colorado. We start by creating understanding. We start by creating space for people to see each other, to hear each other, to articulate their own interests, but ultimately to roll up their sleeves together and to embark on that transformational process of finding solutions to complex problems that lay out beyond the realm of fear in the field of understanding and collaboration.